And I've got Kelly Devine, who's from Renew Media, who's perhaps also got a background in the conventional side of things, the industry as it has been. So again, the perspective I think is going to be very interesting.
Hi, my name is Kelly Devine, and as Michael had mentioned, I did first have a background in very traditional media. I was a film buyer for a U.S. cable channel called the Independent Film Channel, which now is really just IFC because they don't want to really point out independent film. They just want to be a bunch of letters. And and certainly some of Peter's remarks about the gatekeeper role were, that was very much what my role was. That was what our, the job of being in acquisitions was. And there was a time when it was great fun, and it was also very creative. Certainly from the filmmaker's standpoint, they do look at it as it's your job to say no to their film. As I used to explain to my neighbors who didn't know anything about the business, I used to say, well, it was my job to watch film all day long to save you from 2 painful hours of your life that you'd never get back. So there's always 2 ways to look at it. But acquisitions is not so much fun any longer because the landscape for cable networks is changing rapidly. And film buying is no longer considered a creative aspect of cable programming because they want to put their resources into material that they can brand and own and stamp their name all over. Also, I used to buy shorts, and we used to, although it was very nominal, we used to pay people for the shorts. And toward the end of my tenure at IFC, they had decided that they didn't need to pay people for shorts anymore because there were so many sites where shorts were free, and that it might be a good idea for them to also just post a player on their website and invite people to upload them for free. And so, I had what I thought was also a very pleasurable part of being one of those gatekeepers was I had seen the first shorts from the filmmaking team behind Half Nelson, had bought the first short from Nicole Cassell, who later went on to make The Woodsman. In terms of buying feature films from completely unknown artists, probably the biggest feather in my cap was getting Lost in La Mancha when it was just in rough cut form, and after everyone had turned it down, finding some way to get it made and see it for the first time in Berlin. So that was very exciting. And so that was what I used to do. And I had gotten very frustrated and decided to become a consultant. I wasn't even sure that I would stay in the industry since I wasn't particularly wedded to it, although I have a great passion and love for all types of media. And as a consultant, I program film festivals, I counsel filmmakers, and the hard thing about counseling filmmakers in a day like today is that there used to be one way to do it. It might be difficult and it might have a lot of obstacles, but there used to be one way to do it. Now there's so many ways to do it. And that's the most difficult thing is helping people deal with their expectations and deal with their own limitations and in this ever-changing market that has increasing opportunities, but also has sometimes, choice. Too much choice is very confusing, as you noted as well. One of my consultancy clients is Renew Media, which is a nonprofit organization in the United States. It was formed 20 years ago by the Rockefeller Foundation. The Rockefeller Foundation, as with many foundations, philanthropic foundations in the United States, writes checks to filmmakers based on a convergence of the filmmaker's idea and a particular topic that the philanthropic organization wants to have attention paid. But they said, we're writing these checks and the films are getting made, and that doesn't seem to be as much the issue. Now the issue seems to be getting them seen. And so they started Renew Media with that goal in mind, that Renew Media's job would be to cultivate audiences as well as support independent distribution and filmmakers. And their latest project to that end is Reframe, which is going to be a social network, but while everyone else has been talking mostly about that elusive general audience, we are very targeted towards the institutional market, meaning educators, librarians, public media groups, film societies, those folks who are typically consuming media not for home use or individual use, but for projection either in a classroom setting, a library setting, or some kind of communal viewing. And but we face the same issues that the general audience distributors face, and that is access to the material, awareness, and a clear place for the audience to, to congregate and to find these things. What we're doing with Reframe, and I'll be very brief so we can start taking your questions, what we're doing with Reframe is on one hand creating a social network that goes beyond being a simple database of all of the documentaries, shorts, 1-hours, features, whether they're documentaries or narratives, that we've all seen at markets and we've all read about as they come in and out of festival play and then disappear. We wanted to go beyond just having a database, but also to find creative partnerships to allow those materials to be easily purchased. We're also trying to create a context so that professors, librarians, all these folks who are using this material for communal purposes can have a place to dialogue and can have a place where they can speak about film and media in the ways that they are accustomed to doing that, posting their syllabi, discussing different community issues that are important to them. Our way of making sure that we can meet both of these goals, besides building the social networking site, is to develop partnerships with retail outlets, with for-profit organizations. Our first retail partnership is with Amazon.com, and we got them to break open their standard terms and to change things so that it was more reflective of the needs of the traditional institutional distributors. But what's interesting, what we tried to do in crafting this, in terms of meeting our goal of creating a vehicle for owners of content to better find this particular audience, we wanted to make sure that however we constructed this, that it was both flexible enough to capture the existing pricing models as well as be open for those traditional distributors to start to experiment and to start to change the way that they think about their relationship with their audience. But we wanted to make certain that this is a very small but closely held market, and we wanted to make sure that it had a chance to break open. So our first deal with Amazon, we feel very fortunate in terms of making the compromises that we needed to make, but as well as maintaining the ownership and the control and the pricing with the content owner. And so we will be launching probably in January. Right now I've been traveling around a lot talking to folks in order to bring their content into our model. And I think the most interesting thing was I was recently at MIPCOM, which is held in Cannes. It's a big TV market. And I think if I had been having my series of 10-minute meetings every day with them, even a year ago, I would not have gotten, a single positive response. But now, things are really changing, even for those people who can afford those big fancy booths at MIPCOM. So it's an interesting world. I'm challenged and fascinated by the changes. But again, I think it really comes down to, to pleasing the audiences and to, creating a fertile area for producers, not only to make one film, but to continue making films and to continue creating and having that collaborative relationship with their audience. And I hope that our program helps to do that. So thank you.